Hi folks, just a quick video. So, if I had to guess, I would say in Scotland there are probably around about 50 to 100 people who are seriously desiring more of God and who would at least start the process of changing paths if they had the opportunity. Most of which would give up that change of the paths within a matter of days, because once they realise that changing paths means actually changing what you believe, admitting that you were wrong about many things you believed in, they would back down and say no, can't do it. See, you might be left with maybe 25 to 50 in Scotland. In the rest of the UK, you might have another 200. Might have another 200, 200 to 300 people who would actually, well, I'd say 200 maybe, who right now, although I suppose you can look at the cities and say, you've got some pretty big cities all around. So even in Scotland, you could say maybe a tiny bit more than what I've said. So maybe 75 to 100 in Scotland who would actually make all the effort and go the whole distance, yes. Yeah. And in the UK, maybe another 200 to 300. Because, I'd say, if you're young, it's easier. Because if you're young, you've not really chosen a path. You've not really got to that point where you've invested heavily in the path that you've chosen, in the church that you've chosen, in the way of worshipping, in the way of walking. So therefore, it's a damn sight easier to be willing to change. But older people? As I said before, part of the problem is if you've moved home, changed jobs, or even changed relationships. Lost one relationship one to another, and changed churches. You've had an awful lot of change in your life already. And therefore will be incredibly resistant to the idea of change. But I say one of the biggest points is that idea that you could be so wrong. That's the thing that people find so difficult to get past. The idea that they could be so wrong. Yeah. And that's a blinking tough one. That is a really tough one to get past. Well, because as I say, if you're older, again, it's harder. Because if you're older, then it means that you have probably told work colleagues and family members to walk as you were walking before, which you now realise is potentially wrong. And so the feelings of guilt and the feelings of horror that can come with that That's why it's so incredibly difficult to change paths, because you first must understand that the path you're on is wrong. And that, as I said, the reality is, just go to God about this very fact. Should there have been other churches once the Pentecostal church was created by God? The answer is no. The reason why that is because of those very points about change. If you were in one of those churches when the Pentecostal church was created, then you've advised people to join your church. You've told people that yours is the church. And now you've got to tell them that you were wrong. Some of those people would have died already. And so what are you going to do? You're going to jump ship? Are you going to say, yeah, okay, I was wrong. I'm going to move. Go to the people that you helped to come to that church. Yeah, I'd advise you to move with me. But if you want to stay, stay. And then you move. That's a blinking tough thing to do. You have to really care a damn sight more about God than you do about what other people think about you. And that's a major problem as well. People in church have been told to care an awful lot about how people think about you. Yeah. To not offend people, to not... And of course, if you're walking away from your church to this new thing of God, or changing your path, whatever, then, yeah. People of the old path are going to get offended. And a lot of people will stop themselves from changing because of that. So it's crazy, the grip that the devil has. Yeah. And it's through the most stupid things. Because the reality is, if you said to someone, very simple, very straight, would you choose to go to hell to protect the feelings of that person? And they would say, no. Don't be bloody stupid. And yet that's exactly what they would do. Because when you don't put it that way, and you leave it to their own mind, and to the way other people look at them, they're going to choose that. It's insane. So that's why, for me, I've been blunt with people. That's why I don't tend to muck around, because... yeah. What's the point? Just get straight to the bloody point. Help people to understand the danger that they're in, and maybe they will have the courage to change. Maybe. But you've got to help them to understand the real danger that they're in. But then you're saying that all these people they're leaving behind are in that danger. And again, others won't want to leave them because of that. They're going to think that if they stay, they can go on the same journey with God and they can bring those people along with them, which they can't. If they could, they would have done it already. They can't. First of all, going through that journey with God around those people who want to stay on the old path and want you to stay on the old path because, you know, why would they want you to go on a separate journey than them? In your hope that you can drag them along with you, which they won't come. Again, if you've got a lot of people in church who are of bad ground, they're not going to want to come. If you've got people who are tares, they're not going to want to come. So, yeah. It really is the case that the reason why people don't change is there's so many reasons why. There's so many things that get in the way of that. And the only thing that really pushes you to change is that you love God far more than you care about how people think about you. And most people can't get there. So, hopefully you can. So you take care. God bless. Speak to you soon. Enjoy. Bye-bye.